Did I get burnt out on comic books? This is a thought bubble I've wanted to do now for several months. Actually, before the Dark Avengers 500th comic book review episode dropped, I wanted to do this, and I actually decided not to. I decided to let the 500th review go, let the live show go, so everyone knew that even though the Dark Avenger comic book review was going, the comic book channel was still going to have content after my summer break, or our summer break, because Michael is a part of the reviews with me. So I decided to wait on this video, and then I decided to even push it further because I decided to kind of take a little bit of time off. I will be talking about that in a separate thought bubble. As a matter of fact, it might be the thought bubble right after this. You're going to be noticing this shirt and this setup for the next couple of thought bubbles. I'm going to throw that out there now. I'm going to be recording these back to back. I have several, I believe 5, including this one. So for the next 5 thought bubbles, this is going to be the setup. I'm going to throw that out there in advance, and I'll probably mention it at the beginning of all my thought bubbles. But I was asked this question by a lot of people after I mentioned the 500th Dark Avenger comic book review was going to be the last, that we weren't going to be on the road to 600. And I also noticed throughout 400 to 500, a lot of the people, when I started doing comic book reviews, they were starting to take breaks or take a leave that would possibly be indefinite. People just started to not want to do reviews anymore for one reason or another, whether it be comic books or other reasons such as that. And in the end, the short answer of did I get burnt out is yes, but the longer one that kind of explains it a little bit more and explains why I'm still reading my books instead of taking a complete break from comics is I got burnt out because there was so much to read and I only had so much time each week to read it. I was getting my books anywhere from Wednesday, Thursday, and I had to have those read by Sunday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days to read possibly 20 books. Or if I got them on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days to read anywhere from 20 to 30 books depending. And then also I only had about 15 of those books, sometimes less, on the Dark Avenger comic book review. But to cram all those books in such a short time, after a while, especially with so many events that are going on with Marvel and everything that was going on with DC, plus all the independents I was reading, it got to be a bit much. And towards the end of the Dark Avenger comic book review, I was staggering. There were reviews that were late for one reason or another, whether I couldn't finish my books, or I know we went the last 10 episodes. There was a time where we were a week behind, actually, and we had to play catch up to get there. Or was it the last 15? It was maybe the last 15, and it was falling behind, and then the stress. I think more along the lines of, now that it's been, and I'm glad I waited. Now that it's been a month since I've done a Dark Avenger comic book review, more and more I'm seeing I didn't get burnt out on comic books themselves. I got burnt out on I have to read all these books at this time. I only have so many days. So more I got burnt out on the fact that I had to read my books super quick than the books themselves, because over the past month and a half, because we're now in August, I've been enjoying my books a lot more. I've been stretching out my reading a bit more. The only time I had to talk about any of my like top 5s or whatever was on Frontline Live, and I always like reading my top 5. Now that I'm not doing a review, I like reading my favorite books first. So more than half of the time, I had my top 5 read by the time the show came up, and I didn't regret not reading a book before Frontline Live, because I always caught all of my favorite books at the beginning of the week. Like, I read those first. And I think that's why, essentially, I had to change up my comic book channel, because I wasn't having fun reading my books anymore, and it was showing on the reviews. I'm sure a lot of people started noticing that it took a lot to do a comic review, and especially with the amount of books I read. Now I've cut my pile down a bit. I do read books casually still. I have books from 2 weeks ago that I haven't read yet, but I still have them on a list of books to read. Now that I'm reading them more at my pace instead of at the pace of a review, I'm enjoying them more, I'm liking them more. I'm finding enjoyment in books that I wasn't finding enjoyment in before again. And I think that's the most important thing. So while the short answer was yes, I did get burnt out on comics, it wasn't the comics as much as it was the review and the comics combined. So while comics did play a part in the burnout, it was also the fact of having to read them so fast that played a part in the burnout. So the longer answer is yes, but the reviews are what really burnt me out the most. And like I said, Marvel has a lot of events. Absolute Carnage just started in this month, August 2019, and there are thousands of books. Well, not, I don't want to over exaggerate. There are at least 10 books connected to Absolute Carnage, some of which I don't read, some that are literally miniseries connected to the event, and then there's the main event book. If I was doing my comic review still, and let's say I wanted to cover all of Absolute Carnage, that's at least a good 10 to 15 books a month extra on top of my already hefty pile. But then again, let's say 10, because 5 of those books probably I am reading, like Amazing Spider-Man. I know Michael's reading. We had Venom pop in and out, but it got to be a bit much. And as everybody knows, it's like the beach. The waves go in and the waves go out. Sometimes Marvel's on top, sometimes DC's on top. It depends where the waves are at right now. And right now, Marvel, like I said, they're doing a lot of events. DC has a lot of stuff going on, but DC also has a lot of delays going on. And you've got that Year of the Villain. So each of the big 2 companies have big things going on. And then you have the independents, where I love Birthright. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I am reading Transformers. I just have not had a chance to review them on the Dark Avenger comic book review, because I like to read those slower, a little bit slower. They're a little bit more wordy than your average comic, but they're so enjoyable. I just love reading them at my own pace. And then there's a bunch of other books. Crowded, Paper Girls just ended, Saga is going to be coming back soon, Walking Dead just ended. Just all of that on top of what I'm already reading from the big 2. It was a lot. And yeah, I did burn out a little bit, and I feel like ending the review really helped re-energize me a little bit, like I said, because over the past month and a half, all I've been talking about is my top 5. So I've essentially only had to have read 5 to 6 books if I wanted to talk about my least favorite, which is harder when you don't read all your books. It's hard to have a least because you didn't read everything yet, so you don't know if something would have been lower on your pile. But at least my top 5 has been in every week, and I've been enjoying my books more. I've been liking them more, and I feel like the burnout kind of is over now. Like I said, I'm into a lot of my books more. I'm reading a couple of new series that are out, whereas before, when I was doing my review, every time a new series would come out, I'd really have to think about it because of the amount of books I had to read each week. I feel like now I could kind of slide in and out of series as I please. I started reading more Immortal Hulk, and I've been enjoying that. So I guess the lesson from this thought bubble is when it comes to comic books, if you are going to read more than 5 or 6 books a week, pace yourself. Don't put yourself on a 4-day schedule, because you will burn out, and you will burn out fast. For me, it took 500 weeks plus, because we combined a couple of weeks. It took 500 plus weeks. For other people, it could take 1,000 weeks. For other people, it could take 5 weeks and then they're done. The lesson for this thought bubble is pace yourself a little bit, and don't rush to read anything. As far as the comic review medium goes, there are a lot of reviewers out there. And when I come back on Dark Avenger C86, I'm going to be doing more of me sharing my enjoyment of comic books than reviewing the books I'm reading. And I think that's going to be what makes me feel, what's the word I'm looking for? What I'll be more attuned to than sitting down every week and doing one comic book review. This will be more of me sharing my hobby and my passion, which is comic books, and still having an enjoyable time just saying, hey, you know, this week I'm picking up that, or doing my Dark Avenger live show where I sit down and talk with everybody about the comic books that we've read whatever week, or things going on in the comic book world, or talking about if we do make a spotlight video, spotlighting my favorite books of the week, instead of harping on everything, just focusing on the books I enjoyed most. And I think that's what's going to really put a lot of energy, put a lot of energy back into myself when it comes to my comic book channel and talking comic books in general. And sitting here for the past month now, and I'm going to talk more in detail on that on the next Thought Bubble, sitting here and really thinking about that as far as coming up with ideas throughout the summer, since I'm on a summer break. I've come up with a lot of great ideas, and I've gotten myself pumped up and excited about what I'm going to start doing starting in September. Whether we start doing it one show or one series at a time, or one whole week at a time, do a whole week's worth of the series at a time. I'm excited, and I feel like I've got that energy back that I lost somewhere along 400 to 500 especially. I feel like I'm getting that back, that interest, that drive to do stuff on the comic channel again, and I'm happy about that. And so yeah, I did get burnt out, but I'm feeling a lot better now because I figured out why I was burnt out and I fixed that problem. So hopefully this helps somebody out there who might be having the same problem, being burnt out with comics. I know there are other reasons for people to be burnt out in comics, whether it be the writing, the art. I will say, no matter what, there's going to come a time where your favorite comic, the writing might not be where you want it, or the art might not be where you want it. Unfortunately, that's something that's more of a fluctuating, it fluxes one way, it fluxes another, maybe both ways, where you hate the art and the writing. I will say that didn't burn me out on comics, because I was reading so many different comics that when one wasn't as strong as another, the stronger one is what kept me interested in reading and continuing forward. So there's a whole subject on this that on Frontline we'll be talking about, and we talk about it each and every week about DC and Marvel and the independents, and how writing and one writer being on too many books, or not enough voices being heard, or diversity in writing definitely hurts a company when you don't have that diversity in writing. And that's just something that's always going to be happening. Now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, writing and art and stuff like that, that's always going to be fluctuating. Can it definitely lead to comic burnout if you're only reading a handful of books? Absolutely. I think it didn't hit me the most, like I said, because I'm reading a lot. I do still read a lot. Not a lot. I mean, I know people that read hundreds of books a week, but I read enough that if one book starts to stall, I have another book that I am interested in reading, or another book that might be better that'll keep me interested in reading that book, while the other book stalls a little bit, and then maybe it'll come back and that book will stall. So I read a lot. So that wasn't a contributing factor to me being burnt out as much as the amount of time I had to read it. So just saying, if you are burnt out because of that, my recommendation would be check out other series that you haven't checked out before. If you're only reading about 5 books and let's say 3 of them are not where you want them to be, go look at something else. Check out one other book, whether it be a Marvel, DC, an independent book. Independence will surprise you. If you have not tried an independent book, definitely go to the independent companies and check them out, because there are a lot of amazing stories out there I didn't even know about until I started doing my Dark Avenger comic book review, and I gained a humongous appreciation for the independent line of comic books. So yeah, if you're getting burnt down on something, take a break from it, go somewhere else, maybe come back when an arc or two are done, when a story arc or two are over with, and see if maybe things pick up, new writer, new creative team, you never know. But that's, I'm already 4 minutes, a little bit over where I wanted to be, so I hope you enjoyed this thought bubble. Feel free to share any of your thoughts in the comments below. I always love hearing from people. This is me kind of just sharing some of the things going on in my mind and some of the thoughts that are in my head. So I hope you enjoy them. We have 4 other ones coming soon, so look forward to them. Till then, everybody, take care, and I'll see you all really soon in the next video.